What I think is happening is I think there are fake people on the payroll. I think that paychecks are getting sent to people who do not really exist.
All right, you guys. So a week before Charlie lost his life, he expressed some concerns about the finances at Turning Point.
The moment this story started circulating, people didn't just pause, they leaned closer to their screens. Because what's being said right now feels bigger than just another online rumor. Reports are flying, whispers are turning into headlines, and suddenly the name Erika Kirk is being mentioned alongside words that make even longtime supporters uncomfortable.
So that's a major issue, right? And that's where I started realizing a lot of this money in these nonprofit organizations are going in and out.
Panic, refunds, fraud. And while nothing has been officially proven, the fact that these reports even exist has sent shockwaves through political media circles. According to multiple online commentators and emerging reports, donors connected to Turning Point USA are no longer staying quiet. The same supporters who once defended the organization without hesitation are now asking a question that cuts deep. Where did the money go? And when donors start demanding refunds instead of writing checks, emotions run high fast. Fans are shocked, critics feel vindicated, and everyone else is watching closely as the tension builds. Sources claim this didn't come out of nowhere. Rumors suggest that behind closed doors, concerns about finances were already bubbling long before the public caught on. Now, with those concerns allegedly spilling into the open, Erika is being described as scrambling to control the narrative. Again, these are reports and commentary, not confirmed facts, but the reaction alone has been explosive. Social media timelines are flooded with speculation, live streams are dissecting every detail, and former allies are suddenly choosing their words very carefully. What makes this situation feel even more dramatic is the timing. In the wake of tragedy, emotions were already raw. Supporters were unified in grief, donations poured in, and public sympathy was overwhelming. But now, commentators claim that unity is cracking. Some donors reportedly feel uneasy, others feel betrayed, and a few are allegedly demanding answers they believe they never should have had to ask. And here's where the suspense really tightens. If these reports are true, even partially, what happens next? Is this just another wave of internet noise that will fade away, or is this the beginning of a much larger fallout? Because when loyalty turns into suspicion and admiration turns into doubt, things can spiral quickly. And right now, all eyes are on Erika as the story continues to unfold. The first thing people noticed was not a statement, not a press release, not even a denial. It was silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence that sat there while online chatter kept growing louder. Commentators started pointing out how unusual that was. Normally, when rumors flare up, especially ones tied to money and donors, leadership rushes to calm things down. But this time, according to reports, that reassurance did not come right away. Instead, people watching from the outside began to say Erika looked tense, guarded, almost like someone trying to hold together too many moving pieces at once. Around the same time, small clips from private conversations allegedly began circulating. Nothing verified, nothing confirmed, but enough to make people talk. In these clips, voices claimed that donors were quietly reaching out, asking questions they had never asked before. Not angry questions at first, careful ones, polite ones. Questions like how funds were allocated, what expenses looked like now, and why some numbers no longer seem to line up the way they used to. On their own, those questions might have seemed harmless. Together, they painted a picture of unease. People close to the situation, at least according to online reports, said Erika felt blindsided. From her perspective, the organization had just gone through an emotional storm, and she believed loyalty would hold everything together. But loyalty, as many pointed out, can shift quickly when money is involved.
Angels in our lives. And these are my little angels from Antonio Placement Center in Constanța, Romania.
Listen.
Our goal with the Romanian Angels Project was to show these children the true American heart during the holiday season. And what better way to do that than having our United States military personally deliver the gift?
One commentator said that grief can unite people, but accounting divides them. And suddenly, that line was everywhere. Behind the scenes, the mood was described as tense. Meetings that were once routine reportedly stretched longer than usual. Voices were raised. Not screaming, but sharp, clipped exchanges that suggested frustration. One person allegedly said, "This was supposed to be about the mission, not spreadsheets." Another reportedly responded, "Donors care about both." That moment, whether it happened exactly that way or not, became symbolic online. It represented the clash people believed was happening between emotion and accountability. Fans watching from the outside were shocked. Many had defended Erika fiercely in the past. They had shared her interviews, reposted her emotional speeches, and praised her strength. Now some of those same supporters were saying they felt confused. Not angry yet, but unsettled. And confusion, as social media often proves, can quickly turn into suspicion. Timelines filled with people saying things like, "I just want clarity," or asking, "Question should not be controversial." Then came the refund talk. Again, nothing officially confirmed, but reports claimed a handful of donors had reached out asking whether refunds were even possible. That alone was enough to send shockwaves through online circles. Asking for a refund was seen as crossing an invisible line. Commentators said it signaled a breakdown in trust, even if only among a small group. Others argued it was being blown out of proportion, but once that idea was out there, it could not be pulled back. According to commentary, Erika was not just dealing with donors, she was also dealing with perception. Every appearance, every clip, every photo was being analyzed. People claimed she looked stressed. Others said she looked defensive. Some even argued that she was being unfairly targeted. Emotions ran high on all sides. Friends were said to be urging her to stay calm, to let things settle. Critics were saying silence only made it worse. One particularly dramatic moment, as described by online personalities, involved a closed-door discussion where the word fraud was allegedly mentioned, not as an accusation, they stressed, but as a fear. Fear of what people might start saying if answers were not given quickly. That word, once whispered, spread like wildfire. Suddenly, videos and posts were using it in thumbnails and headlines, always followed by disclaimers, always framed as reports or allegations. But the damage was done. Fans were shocked that such a term was even being associated with the situation. The personal stakes for Erika were described as enormous. Commentators said she was not just protecting an organization, but her own reputation. Every move she made now would be scrutinized. One wrong sentence could be taken out of context. One delay could be seen as avoidance. People claimed she felt trapped between defending herself and not wanting to inflame the situation further. Meanwhile, reactions from others added fuel to the fire. Some longtime supporters reportedly went quiet, choosing not to comment at all. That silence was interpreted in a dozen different ways. Critics said it meant they knew something. Supporters said it meant they were tired of the drama. Neutral observers said it proved how messy things had become. The family, according to speculation, was left divided in terms of strategy, with some pushing for transparency and others urging restraint. What kept this story alive was not proof, but momentum. Each hour brought a new reaction video, a new post, a new theory. People were not just watching a situation unfold, they were participating in it. And according to reports, Erika could feel that pressure building, not in a dramatic meltdown way, but in the slow, grinding way that wears someone down. Insiders allegedly described her as pacing, rereading messages, trying to anticipate the next wave before it hit. By the end of this phase, one thing was clear in the commentary world. This was no longer just about money or donations. It was about trust, image, and control of the narrative. People believed Erika was standing at a crossroads, whether she wanted to be there or not. And as the conversation grew louder, the sense of calm that once surrounded the organization seemed to slip further out of reach. The first thing people started talking about was not a document, not a leaked email, not even a statement from leadership. It was the sudden shift in tone. Online commentators noticed it almost instantly. The energy around the organization felt different, heavier, like something was being held back. Reports claimed that behind the scenes, conversations had changed from confident planning to careful damage control. And while none of this wasn't confirmed, the sheer number of people saying the same thing made fans uneasy. According to commentary circulating online, Erika was hearing concerns from multiple directions at once. Donors weren't yelling yet, they weren't accusing yet, they were asking questions. Calm questions, polite questions, the kind of questions that sound harmless on the surface but carry weight underneath. People allegedly wanted to know how funds were being used now, how priorities may have shifted, and why financial transparency suddenly felt harder to access. In the world of nonprofit politics, those questions alone can be enough to spark panic. Supporters who once praised Erika for her composure began noticing small changes. Some said her public appearances felt more guarded. Others said she seemed distracted, like someone listening for bad news even while speaking. Again, this was all perception, but perception drives narrative. Fans were shocked at how quickly admiration was turning into concern. Timelines filled with posts saying things like, "I still support her, but something feels off." That single word, "off," kept showing up again and again. Behind closed doors, as described by people claiming insider knowledge, meetings became tense, voices were raised.
Not in explosive arguments, but in clipped, emotional exchanges. One person allegedly said the organization could not afford confusion right now. Another reportedly pushed back, saying donors deserved clarity no matter how uncomfortable it was. These moments, whether they happened exactly this way or not, became symbols of a deeper conflict people believed was unfolding. The emotional stakes were high. Erika was being described as carrying the weight of expectation from every side. On one hand, she was expected to protect the organization's image. On the other, she was expected to reassure donors who felt uneasy. Commentators said that balance is almost impossible to maintain once suspicion enters the conversation. No response feels fast enough, and no silence feels safe. Then came the word that changed everything: fraud. Not as a confirmed accusation, not as a legal claim, but as a rumor, a fear, a term people said was being whispered in private conversations. Once that word appeared in commentary videos and posts, even carefully framed with disclaimers, it took on a life of its own. Fans were shocked that such a serious term was even being linked to the situation, even hypothetically. Critics seized on it, while supporters scrambled to defend. Reports claimed Erika reacted strongly to this shift, not publicly, but emotionally. People said she felt betrayed by how quickly loyalty seemed to crack. From her perspective, according to commentary, she had stepped into leadership during an already painful period. She believed the mission would keep everyone aligned. But money changes dynamics, and grief does not stop people from asking hard questions. At the same time, reactions from others made everything worse. Some high-profile supporters allegedly went silent. They did not post defenses. They did not issue statements. They simply disappeared from the conversation. That silence was read in every possible way. Critics said it was proof something was wrong. Defenders said it was smart to stay quiet. Neutral observers said it showed how risky the situation had become. Fans watching all of this unfold felt torn. Emotions ran high in comment sections. Some said questioning leadership was disrespectful. Others said blind loyalty was dangerous. The family, according to speculation, was left divided in how to respond. Some believed transparency was the only way forward. Others feared that opening books and explanations would only feed the fire. What made this moment especially intense was how fast everything moved. Within days, what started as quiet donor questions turned into loud online debates. Reaction videos multiplied. Theories stacked on top of theories. People were not waiting for confirmation. They were forming opinions in real time. And according to reports, Erika could feel that pressure closing in. Insiders allegedly described her as constantly checking updates, trying to stay ahead of the narrative. Every new post felt like another wave to brace against. Friends were said to be urging her to stay calm, reminding her that rumors fade. Critics were saying the opposite, arguing that silence only deepens suspicion. Erika, caught in the middle, was portrayed as someone trying to hold control while the ground beneath her shifted. By the end of this phase, commentary channels agreed on one thing. This was no longer just about donations or numbers on a page. It was about trust. Once trust starts to crack, even slightly, everything becomes harder to manage. And as reports continued to surface, people believed this was only the beginning of a much larger storm surrounding Erika and the organization. The tension did not slow down after that. If anything, it grew heavier, like a room where everyone knows an argument is coming but no one wants to start it. Commentary channels began claiming that donor conversations were no longer just quiet emails or polite calls. Some people were allegedly pushing harder, asking for timelines, breakdowns, and explanations that went beyond general reassurance. Again, nothing officially confirmed, but the consistency of these reports made the situation feel real to those watching. According to online voices, this was when Erika's inner circle started feeling the strain. Friends who once encouraged public appearances were now said to be divided. Some believed she needed to speak more, explain more, and show confidence. Others warned that saying too much could create new problems. Emotions ran high during these discussions. One person allegedly told her that the narrative was slipping away. Another reportedly argued that the internet would twist anything she said anyway. That back and forth, repeated across commentary, became another layer of drama. Supporters were no longer united. Fan pages that once shared nothing but praise were now posting questions, not accusations, but doubts. Things like, does anyone actually know how the money flows? Or why does everything feel so rushed lately? Critics jumped on those posts immediately, framing them as proof that trust was eroding from the inside. Defenders pushed back, saying it was unfair to question leadership based on rumors. The comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Behind the scenes, as described by alleged insiders, the organization itself felt unsettled. Staff members were said to be whispering among themselves, trying to figure out what was happening without crossing lines. No one wanted to be seen as disloyal. At the same time, no one wanted to be caught off guard if things escalated.
That kind of environment breeds anxiety, and anxiety feeds leaks, or at least the perception of leaks. Every vague post was treated like a clue. Then came the stories about money paths. Commentators started laying out hypothetical scenarios, not claims, but possibilities. They talked about how nonprofit spending can look perfectly normal on paper while still raising eyebrows. Marketing costs, event production, travel, consultants, speakers, all legitimate categories, but also areas where numbers can balloon quickly. Donors hearing these explanations began connecting dots in their own minds. Even without proof, the logic alone made some people uneasy. One video in particular went viral, not because it revealed anything new, but because of how it framed the issue. The host said something like, "I am not saying anything illegal happened, but if you were a donor, wouldn't you want answers?" That line was repeated everywhere. It captured the mood perfectly. It wasn't about declaring guilt, it was about discomfort, and discomfort spreads fast. Reports claimed Erika felt this sharply. People described her as frustrated, not because of the questions themselves, but because of how quickly they multiplied. Answer one and 3 more appeared. Deny one rumor and another popped up. Friends allegedly noticed she was sleeping less, constantly on her phone, monitoring reactions. Whether true or exaggerated, that image stuck. It humanized her to some and made her look overwhelmed to others. Meanwhile, some donors were said to be comparing notes with each other. Private group chats allegedly formed where people shared what they had been told and what they were still waiting to hear. This was seen as especially dangerous because once donors start talking to each other instead of leadership, control of the narrative weakens. Commentators said this was the point of no return. Again, not confirmed, but widely believed. Public reactions continued to escalate. Fans were shocked at how fast trust seemed to fracture. Some expressed anger at commentators for stirring things up. Others blamed leadership for not shutting down speculation sooner. Emotions ran high and lines were drawn. You were either questioning things or defending them, with very little middle ground left. Another dramatic twist came from reports about internal disagreements over refunds. Some claimed that even discussing refunds was controversial. One side allegedly argued that offering refunds would look like an admission of wrongdoing. The other side believed refusing refunds would only fuel suspicion. That dilemma became a focal point for commentary channels, who framed it as a lose-lose situation. Whatever choice was made, someone would see it as proof they were right. Erika's personal stake in all of this was emphasized heavily. Commentators reminded viewers that she was not just a leader in this story, but also a public figure whose entire image was now being questioned. Every tearful interview from the past was being rewatched through a new lens. People asked whether emotion had shielded her from scrutiny before. Defenders said that was cruel. Critics said it was inevitable. Family dynamics were also dragged into the conversation. Speculation suggested disagreements over how visible Erika should be and how much control she should keep. Some voices claimed certain relatives wanted her to step back temporarily. Others said that was unrealistic and unfair. Whether true or not, these claims added another emotional layer, making the situation feel even more personal. What kept the story alive was the lack of closure. No single moment resolved anything. Instead, each day added another question. Donors waiting for clarity felt ignored. Supporters waiting for calm felt disappointed. Critics waiting for collapse felt energized. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. By the end of this stretch, the narrative had shifted again. It was no longer just about whether donors were asking questions. It was about whether the situation could still be contained. Commentary channels agreed on one thing. Once people start imagining how things could go wrong, it becomes almost impossible to convince them nothing is wrong at all. And as the noise grew louder, the pressure on Erika and everyone around her continued to build. By this point, the atmosphere around everything had shifted from uneasy to openly tense.
Commentary voices claimed that what was once speculation was now being treated like a ticking clock. Not because anything had been proven, but because too many people were watching too closely. Every delay was read as strategy. Every statement was dissected word by word. People said it felt like the calm before something explosive, even if no one could say exactly what that something was. Reports suggested that Erika's confidence, once seen as steady, now looked more controlled, almost rehearsed. Supporters said she was doing her best under pressure. Critics said she was managing optics instead of addressing substance. Fans were shocked at how polarized the reaction had become. The same clip could be shared by 2 different accounts with completely opposite interpretations. One side called it strength, the other called it avoidance. Both sides claimed they were just asking reasonable questions. According to online chatter, this was also when personal relationships began to feel the strain. People close to Erika were said to be feeling caught in the middle.
Some friends allegedly urged her to take a step back, unplug, and let advisors handle the noise. Others pushed her to stay visible, arguing that disappearing would only make things worse. Those conflicting messages, repeated across commentary, painted a picture of someone being pulled in opposite directions. The donor narrative also took another turn. Commentators claimed that what donors wanted was no longer just numbers, it was reassurance. Reassurance that the mission had not changed. Reassurance that leadership decisions were being made with integrity. Some people allegedly said they did not even care about refunds as much as they cared about trust. That idea resonated with viewers. It made the story feel less like a financial dispute and more like an emotional betrayal. Then came another wave of dramatic framing. Commentary channels began talking about legacy. They asked what happens to an organization's identity when leadership changes under pressure. They questioned whether the spirit people believed they were supporting could survive this level of scrutiny. Again, no accusations, just questions. But those questions hit hard. Fans were shocked to see something they once viewed as stable suddenly described as fragile. Insiders, or at least people claiming to be close to the situation, described long nights and stressful conversations. Erika was portrayed as someone trying to protect what she believed in while also defending herself from narratives she did not create. Critics argued that leadership means taking responsibility for narratives, whether you like them or not. Supporters pushed back, saying that no one deserves to be tried by rumor. Emotions ran high when the conversation turned toward intent. Some commentators suggested that even if nothing improper happened, perception alone could cause lasting damage. Others argued that perception is often manipulated by people with agendas. That back and forth fueled endless debate. Viewers picked sides. Comment sections filled with people saying things like, "I used to admire her, but now I am not sure," or "This feels like a smear and everyone is falling for it." Another dramatic element was the way timelines blurred. Past moments were being pulled into the present. Old interviews, speeches, and appearances were resurfacing, stripped of their original context and re-examined through suspicion. Fans were shocked at how familiar moments suddenly felt different. Things that once seemed emotional now seemed strategic to some. Defenders called that interpretation cruel and unfair. Critics said it was inevitable once trust is questioned. The pressure was not just public. Commentary suggested that Erika felt it privately too. Messages from friends reportedly shifted in tone, becoming more cautious, more careful. Where there was once unconditional support, there was now concern. Not necessarily doubt, but worry about what could happen next. That subtle change, repeated again and again online, made the situation feel isolating. Donor discussions allegedly became more fragmented. Instead of one unified voice, there were many small conversations happening at once. Some donors wanted patience, others wanted immediate clarity. Some wanted to walk away quietly, others wanted answers publicly. That fragmentation made it harder for any single response to satisfy everyone. Commentators framed this as an impossible situation. Whatever was done, someone would feel ignored. Fans watching all of this unfold felt exhausted. The constant back and forth created a sense of emotional fatigue. Some people said they just wanted the drama to end. Others admitted they were glued to updates, unable to look away. Emotions ran high because the story was no longer abstract. It involved real people, real trust, and real reputations. The idea of panic became central to the narrative. Not panic as in chaos, but panic as in pressure.
Commentators said it looked like Erika was constantly reacting instead of leading. Supporters argued that reacting was unavoidable in a media storm. Critics said true leadership is shown in storms. That debate played out endlessly, with no resolution. What made this stage especially intense was the sense that everything was being decided in real time. There was no pause button. Every hour brought a new reaction, a new interpretation, a new theory. People were not waiting for facts. They were building stories from fragments, and those stories took on lives of their own. By the end of this stretch, one thing felt undeniable in commentary circles. The situation had grown beyond any single rumor or report. It had become a test of credibility, resilience, and narrative control. Erika was no longer just responding to questions. She was being measured against expectations that shifted by the minute. And as the noise continued, many believed the most difficult part was still ahead. What followed felt less like a sudden explosion and more like a slow unraveling. Commentary channels began saying that this was the stage where exhaustion sets in, not just for viewers, but for the people living inside the story. Erika was now being portrayed as someone constantly on defense, not because of one single accusation, but because of the sheer volume of questions surrounding her.
Supporters said no one could handle that kind of pressure gracefully. Critics said that pressure comes with the position. Reports suggested that attempts were being made to regain control quietly, not dramatic announcements, not confrontations, but small internal adjustments. People claimed advisors were urging a reset of tone, a recalibration of messaging. The goal, according to commentary, was to project calm without escalating the situation. But calm is hard to sell when the audience is already suspicious. Every effort to steady the ship was interpreted in two opposite ways. Some saw responsibility, others saw avoidance. Donors remained at the center of the narrative. Commentary emphasized that many of them were not angry, just tired of uncertainty, tired of feeling like they had to piece together information from videos and posts instead of clear explanations. Some voices claimed donors were saying this never should have reached the internet in the first place. Others argued that once questions exist, silence only pushes them online. That contradiction made resolution feel further away. The emotional cost became a major talking point. Erika was described as carrying not just public scrutiny, but private doubt. Commentators speculated about what it feels like to wake up every day knowing that anything you do might be misinterpreted. Supporters empathized with that pressure. Critics said empathy does not replace accountability. That divide hardened. People were no longer just discussing events, they were debating values. Another twist in the narrative came from how people framed the future. Commentary channels started asking what happens next if nothing changes. Does the noise eventually fade, or does it leave permanent damage? Some argued that controversies always burn out. Others said trust, once cracked, never fully repairs. Fans were shocked at how pessimistic the conversation had become. Something that once felt like a temporary storm was now being discussed as a defining chapter. Private conversations, at least as described by people claiming insight, were said to be more emotional than strategic. There were reportedly moments of frustration, moments of sadness, and moments of disbelief. Erika was portrayed as someone asking how things escalated so quickly. Advisors were said to be reminding her that public perception moves faster than reality. That reminder offered little comfort when the pressure did not ease. Reactions from the wider audience continued to split. Some viewers doubled down on their support, saying that rumors should not destroy a person. Others felt justified in their skepticism, arguing that powerful organizations owe transparency by default. Emotions ran high because both sides believed they were defending something important. One side defended a person, the other defended principle. Neither wanted to back down. The idea of refunds resurfaced again and again, not as a confirmed action, but as a symbol. Commentators said refunds represented more than money. They represented a breaking point, the moment when belief turns into withdrawal. Whether or not refunds actually happened mattered less than the fact that people believed they might. That belief alone reshaped the narrative. Family dynamics were once again pulled into focus. Speculation suggested that loved ones were urging Erika to protect herself emotionally, even if it meant stepping away from public view. Others allegedly believed stepping back would look like guilt. That tension, repeated across commentary, made the situation feel deeply personal. Fans were
shocked to see how public pressure can seep into private life so easily. What stood out most in this stage was the lack of a clear villain or hero. No smoking gun, no dramatic confession, just layers of doubt, reaction, and interpretation. Commentators acknowledged that this made the story harder to resolve, but easier to sustain. As long as questions outnumber answers, the conversation keeps going. Erika's image continued to shift depending on who was speaking. In some narratives, she was a leader under unfair attack. In others, she was someone failing to meet the moment. Those two versions existed side by side, and neither could fully erase the other. That duality became the heart of the drama. As days passed, the tone of coverage grew quieter but heavier. Less shouting, more analysis. Less shock, more judgment. People were no longer reacting emotionally alone. They were forming conclusions. Supporters noticed this shift and worried it meant opinions were hardening. Critics welcomed it, saying the noise was settling into clarity. Both interpretations fed the same outcome. Pressure remained. By the time this chapter reached its peak, commentary circles agreed on one thing. Whatever the truth ends up being, the impact is already real. Trust has been tested, loyalties have been strained, and reputations have been questioned. Erika, whether fairly or not,
had become the center of a story much bigger than any single report. The situation was no longer just unfolding, it was reshaping how people viewed leadership, grief, money, and belief. And as the conversation continued, many felt that even if answers eventually came, the echo of this moment would linger, because once doubt enters the room, it never leaves quietly. So now the question is yours. After hearing all of this, after watching how fast admiration turned into suspicion, and how quickly rumors reshaped the conversation, what do you think is really going on here? Are these just exaggerated reports feeding off internet chaos? Or do you believe the concerns being raised deserve real answers? Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and trust feels fragile. But the story is still unfolding, and nothing has been officially proven. This is where your voice matters. Stories like this do not exist in a vacuum. They grow because people react, question, and demand clarity. Maybe you think Erika is being unfairly targeted in a moment where grief and leadership collided. Maybe you think donors have every right to feel uneasy when transparency feels thin. Or maybe you believe the truth sits somewhere in the middle, buried under noise, speculation, and endless commentary. Whatever your take is, speak on it. Scroll down and tell us what stood out to you the most. Was it the donor backlash, the silence, the emotional pressure, or the way public perception shifted almost overnight? Did you think the situation will calm down with time, or has something permanently changed? Your perspective adds to the conversation, and right now, the conversation is far from over. If you want to stay updated as this story continues to evolve, make sure you like this video so more people see it. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future updates, and turn on notifications so you are always in the loop. We break down the stories everyone is whispering about, the moments that divide fans, and the drama that keeps the internet buzzing. And remember, nothing in this video claims final truth. We are following reports, reactions, and public commentary as they happen. The story is still moving, and the next twist could come at any moment. So stay with us, stay curious, and let us know in the comments what you think is really happening here.